October 7, 2023, a date etched in infamy. On this day, the world watched in horror as Hamas launched a surprise attack on Israel. The images were searing militants storming across the border, rockets raining down on Israeli cities. Fear and chaos gripped the region. Israel vowed swift and decisive retaliation. The response was immediate and overwhelming, marking the beginning of another devastating chapter in the seemingly endless Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The Gaza Strip, already reeling from years of blockade and conflict, became the epicenter of a brutal new war. Israeli airstrikes rained down upon this densely populated enclave, targeting Hamas positions. The human cost was staggering. Homes were reduced to rubble. Hospitals, overwhelmed and undersupplied, struggled to cope with the influx of casualties. Schools, once sanctuaries for learning, became shelters for terrified families seeking refuge from the bombs. Amidst the death and destruction, stories of immense courage and resilience emerged. Ordinary Palestinians, doctors, nurses, teachers, parents, displayed extraordinary bravery, risking their lives to save others. Their stories, often untold, reveal the indomitable spirit of a people facing unimaginable hardship. This was not a war between equals. It was a conflict in which one side possessed overwhelming military superiority, while the other fought for survival, clinging to hope amidst the ruins. The days that followed the initial attack were a blur of violence and destruction. Israeli warplanes ruled the skies above Gaza. Day and night, the deafening roar of F-35s and drones filled the air, punctuated by the terrifying whistle of bombs as they plummeted towards their targets. Each explosion sent shockwaves rippling through the densely packed streets, collapsing buildings and burying families under tons of concrete. The Israeli Defense Forces, or IDF, justified the relentless bombardment as a necessary response to Hamas's aggression. They claimed to be targeting military infrastructure, weapons depots, and Hamas leadership. Yet, with each passing day, the civilian death toll mounted. The world watched in disbelief as the images flashed across television screens, children pulled from the rubble, their lifeless eyes staring vacantly, hospitals overflowing with the wounded and dying, entire neighborhoods reduced to mountains of debris. International condemnation grew. Human rights organizations accused Israel of using disproportionate force in committing war crimes. They pointed to the indiscriminate bombing of civilian areas, the targeting of hospitals and schools, and the use of white phosphorus munitions, a chemical weapon banned by international law, as evidence of Israel's disregard for international humanitarian law. But Israel, backed by powerful allies, remained defiant, insisting that it was acting in self-defense and blaming Hamas for using civilians as human shields. Amidst the horrors of war, it is the voices of the survivors that resonate most powerfully. Their stories, though often heart-wrenching, provide a human face to the statistics of conflict, reminding us of the devastating impact of violence on ordinary lives. One such story is that of Fatima, a young mother who lost her husband and 2 children in an airstrike that targeted their apartment building. "We were asleep when the bombs hit," Fatima recalls, her voice trembling with emotion. "I remember a deafening explosion, then darkness. When I regained consciousness, I was trapped under the rubble. I could hear my children crying for help, but I couldn't reach them. I screamed until my throat was raw, but no one could hear me. I was trapped there for hours, listening to the bombs falling around me, knowing that my children were gone." Fatima's story is not unique. Thousands of Gazans have endured similar horrors. They have lost loved ones, homes, and livelihoods. They have witnessed unspeakable atrocities. They have been forced to live in constant fear, their lives shattered by the trauma of war. These are the unseen wounds of conflict, the psychological scars that can take generations to heal. After weeks of relentless bombardment, a ceasefire was finally brokered in January 2025. The world breathed a collective sigh of relief as the guns fell silent. For the first time in months, the people of Gaza experienced a semblance of normalcy. Humanitarian aid, which had been largely blocked during the fighting, began to trickle in, offering a lifeline to the besieged population. The ceasefire, however, proved to be short-lived. Underlying tensions remained unresolved. Hamas, though weakened militarily, remained a potent force in Gaza. Israel, still reeling from the initial attack, was determined to crush Hamas and prevent future attacks. The fragile peace unraveled, and the cycle of violence resumed, dashing the hopes of a lasting resolution to the conflict.